What's up, everybody? So, as you can see here, we've got the stock car elevated up a little bit. We've got a little bend pack 2-post scissor lift hanging out down there. Make it much easier to go through, service the car, pull the wheels off, get in on the steering and suspension. I've already kind of been through and greased everything up here, cycled the jack screw bolts up and down to kind of free them up a little bit, but we've got that up here, and I've also been kind of doing some cleaning in the garage. Had some stuff on it now, but cleaned the garage floor up. The fluid there is from the lift, so no concern from the car there. But got a table set up with, fluids, penetrating oil, brake clean for going through and cycling the jack screws. Some of the smaller parts and stuff that we received the other day. Picked up a couple tools, picked up a plug-in 1/2-inch impact, so I'm not constantly burning out my cordless. And just kind of a place to kind of put some stuff. I'm going to try and tear in a little bit to the rear end tonight. Got that kind of set up back there. So I'm going to try and get the brake off, see if I can get the brake off, get the hub off. It is a full floating axle, so it should be relatively easy to get that hub pulled off. But we'll get some stuff done there, see where we end up. So we're going to talk a little bit about the rear end in this thing tonight. So it is a 9-inch Ford style rear end. It is a full floating axle. So this is actually like the whole hub, everything else. We're going to try and get this whole assembly off tonight. So they call it a full floating axle because this is full floating on the housing. This rotates independent of the housing. And this is your axle that drives from the third member out to this drive plate, which I've got loose sitting on here. And that's what actually drives this hub, which is what drives the wheels. This is where you mount your brake rotors, all that good stuff. I don't know a ton about these. I know enough to get myself in trouble, so don't quote me as an expert on these. I could get the nomenclature wrong as I'm taking this thing apart, but so the axle's still in it right now. The axle can come out separately from this hub. There is a wheel seal in here that you can pop past. And you can see that here. All this stuff's going to get replaced anyway, so I'm not concerned about that. But you have this drive plate here. And this is what actually drives that axle. That sits in here. There's an actual O-ring that seals this off. And then in here is the actual bearings that hold this full floating hub on. All right, so we got some parts set out. I need to get this rotated off. I do not have the correct socket for it. I am going to see if I can possibly just get a punch in there and tap it over. But I'm going to look and see if there's a lock tang anywhere on here holding this thing in, keeping it from spinning. Figure that part out and then get this spun off. See if we can get this hub out. right, so we've got our parts kind of disassembled here on the table. So we've got obviously the brake rotor. This is just a shim. I haven't measured it. I don't see any stampings on it as far as thickness. Maybe an 1/8 inch. But that was on the outside of the rotor. So this is the drive plate. So this is what actually bolts to this hub. And that spline engages with the axle, which is what engages with the third member, which ultimately drives the rear end. So that bolts to this hub, which has 2 bearings in it, inner and outer bearing, wheel seal on the back side. That's one thing I haven't figured out yet, is what camber rear end this thing has in it. But this is just the lock nut, and then this just locks in one of these grooves to lock that to the axle. And then this is the hub that just, like I said, holds the bearings. Basically, this takes all the load versus a standard passenger car. The axle shaft and this flange and everything is all one piece, and that can bend and stress. So we'll clean them up. I need to get a tote, make a parts washer, get some things done there, but kind of looping back in here. You can see the battery box in here. So this is actually where the battery goes. You can see that quick connect that's up in there. This thing has 3 left side frame rails, and we pulled probably maybe 200 pounds of lead out of the frame rails. But you can see the jack screw on the coil spring, truck arm suspension, and a big beefy full floating 9-inch. So I need to do some research and see what kind of parts I need for that. Look up the bearing part numbers. See if I can find some numbers on these brake calipers or something that gives me an idea of what part numbers I need to order for replacements. All right, so we've got the bearings all packed in the hub, ready to go back on. So I'm going to clean that up a little bit, make sure everything's good to go there, wipe it down, get the hub bolted on, put the brakes back together, and throw the wheels back on this thing. So overall, pretty good day. Made some progress on it. Just one step at a time. Learned what I can along the way. Share what I know along the way. But appreciate you guys watching. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you guys have a great night. Peace out.